What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Discord.js tutorial. Today's tutorial, we're going to be doing the advanced music bot. I did the basic music bot roughly a month ago. I was going to do part 2 of that bot, but I decided to go ahead and scratch all that, make that tutorial the basic music bot, and then make this tutorial the advanced music bot. So we're going to be restructuring, actually completely wiping our play command and starting from the beginning. So since we're starting from the beginning, let me just show you all the packages that we're going to need. We're going to need YTDL core, we're going to need YT search, and you're going to have to install FFmpeg on your PC. These two right here are pretty easy to install. All you do is just grab this install command here, open up your terminal, and run the commands. So I ran the commands for YT search, install this, and for YTDL core, and install this. To install FFmpeg, I'm going to have a link in the description to a video, a tutorial on how to install FFmpeg on your computer. You're going to need this or else you're not going to be able to actually get the audio file from a YouTube video. All right, so there's a couple of things that changed that I do want to basically tell you guys. Go all the way to your message.event file, and all the way down here, what I used to have is an if statement here, which is if command, and then we just execute the command here. I completely deleted this and did a try and catch. You guys don't have to do this. I did this just to do a little bit more error checking if the command was not able to execute. And also, I changed my parameter order like this. So before, it used to be, if I remember correctly, it used to be client, then message, then args, then CMD, and then Discord. This is how I used to have it. You guys probably have it like this right now. However, I changed the order to message, then args, then CMD, which is the aliases, then client and Discord. It's just a little bit more organized. So you guys can change that if you want. And if you're having errors, make sure that you check this down here in the message event. Also, you are going to need aliases for this tutorial. So make sure to watch that tutorial if you are lost with aliases. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and create a play.js file. As well as if you had the previous leave.js file in your commands folder, make sure you delete that. We're going to be doing everything in just the one file. So here in play.js, the first thing you want to do is actually import both our packages, which is YTDL core as well as YT search. That's where we're creating two consts right here to hold those requirements. Then we are going to do the typical module.exports and do a name, do two aliases, a cooldown if you want, and of course a description. So the aliases that we're going to need is the skip and stop. The skip, of course, is going to skip the song to the next song in the queue, and stop is going to completely stop the bot. And later on, we can probably do something like leave, and leave be the same thing as stop. But for now, just these two aliases. A cooldown, you don't have to have a cooldown. If you don't know what cooldowns, I did a tutorial yesterday about cooldowns. So simply just ignore this. This is what we did yesterday for the cooldown. So we're just going to have a 0-second cooldown, and description, you can do whatever you want. Next, we're going to do the typical execute method. Make sure it's asynchronous with the async keyword right here. And make sure you pass in the right parameters at the right order. Again, check here in the message event and see how you're passing them. Then we're going to open this up, and the first thing we're going to do is actually get the voice channel that the user's in. So it's just going to be const voice channel equals message.member.voice that channel. And now we want to check that they're actually in a voice channel. So if that voice channel does not exist, and it doesn't exist because they're not in a channel, then we're just going to send this message to the user. And then following this, what we're going to do is actually get the permissions of the user. So we're going to do const permissions equals voice channel dot permissions for, and then get message.client the user. Because we're going to have two permission checks here. The first permission is going to be if they're able to actually connect to a voice channel. So if they have the permission to connect to a voice channel, well, technically in this statement, if they don't have the permission to connect to a voice channel, we just want to return a message saying you don't have the correct permissions. You guys can edit this as much as you want. And then if you don't have the permission to speak, then you can also just do, you don't have the correct permissions. You can do more permissions check here. If maybe it's not admin, then you can't even use the bot, but do your own permissions. And that's it. Let's actually move to the next section. So let's go ahead and actually start creating our queues. The way we have a queues is we're going to create a map all the way up here. We're going to name the map queue, and this is going to be the global queue. So make sure you don't have it inside of the module exports. Outside of the module exports, make sure you have this queue map. How this is going to function, if you guys know how maps work, is that in this queue, we're going to have a key of the message.guild.id. And as the value, we're actually going to hold a constructor here, which is an object that's going to hold the voice channel. It's going to hold the text channel, the connection, as well as an array of these songs. So each guild, each server that your bot is in is going to actually create a key and a value pair inside of this map right here. If you guys don't know much about maps, you guys can watch my last video, talk a little bit about how maps work. Then we're going to come all the way down here and we're going to create another variable called server queue. So this is the global queue for all of the servers. And now we're getting the actual queue for that server that we're going to be playing the song. So const server queue equals queue.get message.guild.id. This doesn't work right now, but it's going to work later on, and I'll explain how it works. So the next thing is we are going to do if the alias equals play, which is just the main command that we're going to be doing here. We want to first make sure that there is a length to the arguments. So if the args the length does not exist, that means they have no arguments. They didn't send any arguments. We're going to go ahead and send, hey, you need to send a second argument. Following this, we're actually going to create a song object. And this song object is going to be the songs that are going to get put right into this array inside of this map. All right, for this next section, make sure you stay with me. What we're going to be doing is checking if the argument is either a link or a set of keywords. So we did this on the last tutorial. It's not going to change much, but how you do this is we're going to do if ytdl, which is the package all the way up here, if.validate URL. Before we actually did a regex, now we're actually just checking on the ytdl, and we're going to pass in the first argument. So if the first argument is going to be a URL, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and open this up, and we want to get all the song information from that URL. So const song info equals await ytdl.getInfo, and make sure you pass in that URL, which is rx0. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and add this right here into this song object right here. And the object has two keys, which is title and URL. We're going to be using the title to send a message saying, hey, this is the song we're playing. And we're actually going to use the URL to actually play the song. So this is how we're structuring our object, which is this song up here. So if it does validate as a URL, we're going to use ytdl to get that information, and then just change this song object here to this. Then we're going to do another else. So if it's not a URL, we are going to then right here, I'm just going to explain, if the video is not a URL, then use the keywords to find that video, which then we just do the thing that we did last video, which we use YT search to go ahead and search the keywords and get the URL for us. So const video finder equals async. We're going to get the query here, open this up, and the first is going to be a const video result. Sorry that some of these are not camel case or snake case that some of them do. I'm just getting confused right now with the camel case and snake case. I've been programming in multiple languages. So this video result is just going to wait and get all of the videos from the query that we're going to be entering right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return videos.length. Actually, this is checking if there's more than one result from the query of the keywords. If there is more than one result, we're just going to get the first result of that keyword. So if they type something like SpongeBob, it's going to get a bunch of videos from YouTube, but we're only going to play the very first video. Following this, go ahead and get out of this function right here, and we want to do const video equals await video finder args.join. What this is doing is getting the arguments, joining them, and passing them into this query, who then searches for that video or those keywords, or that video for those keywords. Then we're going to do if that video exists. If we were able to get the video, then what we're going to do is simply, once again, get that object right here and basically make it into this with, again, two keys, title and URL. And this is how we get it through YT search. And this is how we're getting it to YTDL. So we're getting the title, the video, and we're putting it there. One last else statement. If everything breaks, go ahead and just send a message saying, hey, there was an error finding the video. So now let's actually get started with the server queue, which is this const all the way up here. What this variable is doing, all it's doing is getting from the global queue to see if our server actually has a spot in our global map right here. So what we're going to do is check if it doesn't have that queue. We are going to check this by doing if there is no server queue, the current server has no queue. Then what we're going to do is we actually want to create a constructor, and a lot of music bots have something called the queue constructor. So create a const called queue constructor, open this up, and in here we want to have four keys and values. These are right here. So we have voice channel. I don't know why it's like this. Let me go ahead and just format this real quick. So the first value is going to be the voice channel, and this is just going to be the voice channel the user's in. That we get all the way from up here. The second one is going to be the text channel. This is where we're going to actually send the messages saying, hey, this is the song that's currently playing. And this text channel is just the text channel that the user did the command in. Then we have one called connection. This is currently null. We're talking about connections in a little bit. And the most important one is songs. And this is actually a list. And every single time someone adds a song to the queue, the song is going to get added to this queue constructor inside of the song list right here. Then what we're going to do is grab our global queue. And once again, I don't know why it's formatted like that. Let me just change that. We're going to grab the global queue, and we're actually going to set a key for our server as well as the constructor. Up here, I explained how our little thing is going to work. How it's going to work is that there's going to be a key with our server ID and a constructor. Down here, we're actually setting that. So there's going to be a little list here, you can say, with all of our songs, and the key to those songs is going to be the guild ID. Following this, we're going to do queueConstructor.songs.push. What we're actually doing is we're pushing this song right here, which we set in these if statements right here, into this song list. So then we can then later on get all the songs from the songs list and play them in order. Then what we're going to do is come all the way here and do a try and catch. And the first thing we're going to do is actually establish our connection. So const connection equals await voice channel.join. This is how we are establishing the connection. That's when the bot is going to join the voice channel. Following this, we're going to do, I don't know why it's formatted like that. We're going to do a queueConstructor.connection equals connection. So you see how right here we have a key called connection, and it's called null right here. What we're actually doing is we're passing in that connection that we just established by joining the voice channel. And we're passing that into the constructor, which then the constructor passes that into the global map right here through this value right here. Then we are going to just do something that we should explain later on, which is actually a function called video player. We don't have this function just yet. We're going to create this a little bit at the end of the video, but this is actually going to be the little function that's going to play the songs. Pass in message.guild, pass in constructor.songs.0. So this is the current song that's playing. And then let's continue. Do the catch and error. And if there is an error, the first thing we're going to do is actually delete the whole entire server list from the global queue. We don't want to do anything if there is an error. And then we just want to simply send an error to a channel saying, hey, there was an error connecting, and simply just throw the error outside. Now, let me just do the last if statement. This if statement is exiting this right here. So if there is a server queue, this is establishing our server queue, but maybe there is already a server queue. Someone has already played a song. Then what we're going to do is simply do server queue.songs.push. So if there is a server queue, we don't need to create another server queue. All we have to do is push the current song that's being sent. And then the last thing is just return message to channel send saying, hey, that song has been added to the queue. You can put emojis or whatever you want. All right, so let's go ahead and create the function that's actually going to play the video. So right here, we said, hey, there's going to be a function called video player. We're going to pass in message.guild, and we're also going to pass in the current song. So all the way down here, even outside of your module.exports, we want to create that function called const video player equals async. Then we're going to get that guild. We're going to get that song. Open this up. And in here, the first thing we're going to do is get the song queue, which is just equal to the global queue.get guild ID. That's how we're going to get even the constructor. We're going to get everything through here. Open this up one more time, and if there's currently not a song, so if basically the whole queue is completely empty, there's no need to even play the song because there's no song. So in here, if there's no song, the first thing we're going to do is make sure to leave the channel. So song.queue voice channel.leave, and this voice channel is actually getting it from this constructor right here, the constructor that's currently inside of the global queue inside of our guild ID key. Next, what we're going to do is just delete the whole entire queue. So queue.delete our guild.id. So we get our guild out of the global queue. We're done. We don't have any more songs to play. And go ahead and return so we don't play the actual video. Down here, this is what we did actually last video as well. we created a const which is going to actually hold ytdl.songurl.filter by audio only. This is currently going to hold the actual stream that we're going to stream into the channel. We're using ytdl, we're putting in the song URL, and we're just filtering just to get the audio only. Make sure I just format that real quick. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to play with the connection. So song.q, and it's this right here, which we get the connection from this constructor right here, which we set the connection right here. And then we're going to play that stream, which is this variable right here. We can do the seek and the volume. You guys can do this right here, the seek and the volume through the constructor, and you can actually mess around with it. I just did with the basic right here. And then we're going to do dot on. I'm actually going to put this in a new line. And then dot on finish, which is an event once the song is done playing. What we want to do is go ahead and song queue.songs.shift. So once that song is completely done, it's done playing, go ahead and shift to the next song in the queue so we can start playing that next song of the queue. So let's go ahead and just replay this same function as soon as we get into a new song. So we're shifting to the next song, and we're just going to go back into a loop and play the same function up here until all of the songs are over. All right, let's close this up. And the last thing we're going to do is optional. Just send a message saying, hey, this is what's currently playing, and we are currently playing this song, that title. So there is currently a problem with our code, and that's actually my bad. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and grab everything that we just coded for our if statement if there's no server queue. So I'm going to grab it all of this. And what we want to do is actually, I think I just copied an extra bracket. Come in here, and we want to actually paste it inside of our cmd.play. I accidentally coded this outside of my cmd.play. So once we have this, we added this, make sure that this is inside of this play check if statement here. So now we save this. What we can actually do is run our bot. And if we go ahead, and as you can see, I tested it, there was something wrong with it. Hello. Actually, free to use music. He's going to join, and it's actually going to play. Oh, it's pretty loud. It's going to play free to use music. We have no way to skip it or to stop it, whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect it. That is problematic if you keep doing that, but it should be fine. Let's go ahead and actually create the skip and the stop command. And the final thing that we're going to do in this tutorial is create the skip and stop commands. So all the way outside of this if command equals play if statement, outside of this, let's create two else ifs. The first else if is going to be checking if that alias that they're trying to execute is equal to skip. So we're checking if the alias is skip. Go ahead and run this function, which is skip command, and we're going to pass in message, and we're going to pass in server queue. And then the next one is another else if the alias was stop, make sure to run the stop function with message and server queue. All the way down here below video player, go ahead and create those functions. The first one's going to be skip song. Make sure you get that message and server queue. Go ahead and open this up, and the first thing we're going to check is that the member is actually in a voice channel, because they cannot skip a song if they're not in a voice channel. So if the member that message that member the voice that channel does not exist, go ahead and run this command right here, which is just message the channel to send and sending a message. And then what we're going to do is we actually want to check if there is a server queue, because there's no reason to skip a song if there is no queue. So if there isn't a server queue, go ahead and return a message to channel to send with a message saying, hey, there are no songs in the server queue, and go ahead and just return that. And the last thing we're going to do is just server queue.connection.dispatcher.end. Following this is go ahead and create the last function, which is the stop song function, once again with message and server queue. Open this up, and in here what we want to do is once again check that the member is in a voice channel. So it's the exact same thing all the way up here. Next is we actually want to clear the entire song list. So this command right here, this function here, we're trying to stop it. We're trying for the bot to leave. We're done. We don't want to queue any more songs. We just want the bot to leave. So what we actually want to do is go ahead and completely clear server.queue.songs, which we're actually clearing this right here, which is where all of our songs are currently in, inside of our server queue, which is inside of the global queue. So completely clear it. And the last thing we're going to do is just the same thing up here, which is server queue.connection.dispatcher.end. And with that being said, 107 lines later, we have our complete advanced music bot. So that is it. That is the entire music bot in one single file. Hopefully you guys didn't get lost. I tried to explain everything as best as I could. But yeah, it's a lot of code, but everything works with multiple servers, with multiple things. Just make sure that if your bot is very big, you do sharding. We haven't talked about sharding in this channel here, but everything works. I'm going to have all this code in the description down below. Let's go ahead and test our commands. So let me actually run our bot first. Come in here, let's go ahead and test first a link. So play that link. It's going to say, hey, we are now playing that song. It's going to join, not playing sorry lo-fi hip hop beat, and it's going to play that song. There we go. I know it's pretty loud. I'm sorry about that. And we can also add it to the queue. So we use the link. Now let's use some keywords. Play free to use music. And it's not going to stop this song. It's actually just going to add it to the queue here. So now we added best non-copyrighted music 2020 to the queue. Let's add one more thing to the queue. Free to use songs. Instead of music, we're going to be adding a different song here. So there it is. We added a different song. Now let's go ahead and skip. It's going to skip this song. And it's going to say, hey, we're not playing this right here. Cool. We're done with that. Let's not play that anymore. Let's skip to the next song. And now we're skipping to the next song and we are playing this. To stop everything, stop, gone. We have no more server queue. Our whole entire server is out of this global, sorry about the printing here. I was testing something, but we are outside of this global map. This queue, our server is now gone. Once we actually play another song, it's going to go ahead and make that whole entire system again by adding it with our guild.id and the queue constructor. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is currently my Patreon. So just a quick little shout out to all of my Patreons. If you guys want to support me in Patreon, make sure to check the link in the description for the Patreon, as well as go ahead and join my Discord server. There's going to be a link there. If you do have problems with this music bot, make sure you join that. I know it's complicated. The code will be in the description as well. But yeah, guys, I'll see you guys later on the next video. Peace.